Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive into speech AI. It's mind-blowing to think machines are not only understanding us, but talking back and getting better at it all the time.
Yeah, and it's growing like crazy. We're talking hundreds of billions of minutes generated daily, all kinds of applications using it.
It's a huge change how we use tech,
Yeah,
but it's got to be more than just, quantity.
right, exactly. It's about quality. Like getting those machines to sound like, well, us, like natural
Yeah.
and accurate, especially in the real world, not just some lab.
Yeah, because we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
That robotic voice assistant that just doesn't
Of
get it.
course.
Or those transcripts. You get back and you're like, did it even hear me?
Exactly. The old tech, it had its limits for sure. Accuracy was shaky, you couldn't really customize it, and lag. Don't even get me started. Plus the whole data privacy thing, always a worry.
But it looks like NVIDIA Riva is stepping in to solve some of those problems, building a platform specifically for this, and it's all GPU accelerated.
Yeah, and they're making big progress.
From what I've seen, their accuracy is top-notch. And get this, you can customize the models for accents, noisy backgrounds, even like industry-specific words. That changes everything.
Huge game changer, yeah. Suddenly, you can use speech AI for so much more, not just tweaking old stuff, but making totally new things possible.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding what we say. It's about machine speaking, too.
Okay.
That's where Riva's text-to-speech comes in, the TTS stuff.
Right.
Like, think about it. Avatars with their own unique voices, or those call center agents.
Mm-hmm.
They could sound totally human, even real-time translation, like really capturing how different languages feel.
TTS has come a long way, that's for sure. We're way past those old monotone robot voices.
Yeah, thank goodness.
With Riva, you can control everything. Pronunciation, pitch, how loud it is, the pauses. It's almost like having a whole recording studio on your computer.
It's starting to feel like, the future of how we'll use computers. Mm-hmm. And they're getting some really impressive results. Like the stuff you shared about T-Mobile. Using Riva for Agent Assist, their accuracy went up 3 times and things sped up by 10. That's massive.
Oh, yeah, huge improvement. And it's a good example of how Riva can make things better for the customer and the company.
Right, win-win.
Yeah.
And then there's Intellex, right? They used Riva to optimize their call centers. First contact resolution went way up, and the time it took to handle things went way down. Everybody's happy.
Absolutely. And on the TTS side, there's NCS in Singapore. They made a driving app, but they wanted a voice that sounded local. So they used Riva's customization features, and they made it happen.
It's not just a gimmick, right? It's about making tech feel more, relatable.
Yeah, exactly. More personalized. Like, imagine if everything talked to us in a voice that felt familiar, authentic.
The impact that could have on accessibility, how we communicate globally.
Huge, yeah. There's this example from healthcare. They're using Riva TTS for announcements and like those check-in kiosks. And just by doing that, patient wait times have dropped by 50%. That's a real difference in people's lives.
Wow. Okay, so we've established NVIDIA Riva's doing big things in speech AI. But let's break it down a bit. We keep saying ASR and TTS. But what are those really? And how do they work?
Okay, so first up is automatic speech recognition. That's ASR. It's basically the tech that lets machines take what we say and turn it into text. Think of it like the ears of the whole AI system.
Like those voice-to-text apps, but way, way better.
Way better, yeah. More accurate, much more sophisticated. And one thing that makes Riva ASR stand out is that you can fine-tune it. You can train it using data that's specific to what you're doing. So if you're in healthcare or finance or whatever, it becomes much more accurate because it understands your world.
So instead of just a general speech recognizer, you get one that knows the lingo. Some powerful stuff.
It is. Imagine like a medical transcription service using Riva. They train it on all those medical terms. Suddenly you've got way fewer errors, and doctors can do their documentation much faster.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's ASR. What about TTS? How does Riva make those synthetic voices?
Well, Riva TTS is different. It uses deep neural networks to actually generate the sound waves based on whatever text you give it. It's basically learned how text and human speech go together, all those complex connections, so it can create voices that sound incredibly natural.
So it's not just reading aloud, it's like mimicking how we speak.
Right.
But how does it get things like, intonation, emotion, all the subtle stuff that makes us sound human?
That's where the customization comes in. With Riva TTS, developers can tweak things to match certain emotions, speaking styles, even accents. You can change the pronunciation, the pitch, how loud it is, the pauses. It's really detailed.
So you could have a virtual assistant that sounds super friendly and helpful, or a newsreader that sounds more serious, even voices that sound happy or sad.
Exactly. And you can do it with a lot of precision. Like you can adjust how specific words are pronounced so they're always right, no matter the context.
Wow, that's a lot of control. This is really pushing the limits of how we can interact with computers.
It is. And it's not just about making text sound more human, it's about making experiences more immersive, more engaging. Like, think about VR training. Imagine the characters not just looking real, but sounding real too.
Now that is next level stuff. I'm excited about this.
It is exciting, and it's not just theory. There are real-world examples of Riva being used right now. Touchless kiosks that understand you, even when it's noisy. Delivery robots that can actually have a conversation with you.
I've seen videos of those robots driving around on sidewalks, delivering packages. It's like something out of a movie. But how does speech AI make them more than just a cool gadget?
Well, think about it. The robot gets to your door, and it can actually confirm your delivery or answer your questions about the package. It's a much more personal experience.
It sure beats just having it dropped off without a word.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just convenience. Think about safety. The robot could have voice recognition to check who you are, or even call for help if something's wrong.
That's a smart robot. Okay, so we've got touchless kiosks, delivery robots. What about medical assistants? How's Riva being used in healthcare?
One area that's really promising is patient monitoring. Think about wearable devices that track your vital signs, and they can analyze your voice too.
So it's like a constant checkup, but you don't have to go to the doctor's office.
Exactly. And because it's analyzing your voice, it can pick up on things that might signal a problem, like depression, anxiety, even maybe early signs of cognitive decline.
Wow, that takes preventative healthcare to a whole new level. But what about telemedicine?
Telemedicine is only getting more important, and speech AI can make it way more effective. Imagine real-time translation powered by AI, so doctors and patients can understand each other no matter what language they speak.
That could totally change global healthcare. Doctors could consult with anyone, anywhere.
Exactly. And it's not just translation. Speech AI could even personalize those consultations, giving patients medical info in a way that's easy for them to understand.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Riva in touchless kiosks, delivery robots, healthcare. It's clear that speech AI is going to change how we interact with tech and each other. But before we get carried away,
You're right. We should probably talk about the practical side of things. For all the developers out there who want to dive into this, NVIDIA's got some really helpful tools and resources.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those resources and how NVIDIA is helping developers build the next generation of speech AI.
Let's do it. You mentioned those tools NVIDIA has for developers. One of the big ones is the NVIDIA Riva Developer Starter Kit. It's designed to walk developers through the whole process of building and deploying speech AI.
So it's like a toolkit with everything you need to get going
Yeah.
with Riva. That sounds super helpful, especially if you're just starting out with all this.
Exactly. It's got those pre-trained models, sample code, tons of documentation, so you can get up and running quickly, whether you're building a voice assistant or a transcription service, even a custom TTS engine.
Those pre-trained models seem like a huge advantage. You don't have to start from scratch. It's like a shortcut to making really advanced speech AI stuff.
Big time saver, yeah. And to make things even easier, NVIDIA also gives you access to their GPU cloud. It's called NGC. It's a hub for all sorts of software that runs best on GPUs, and that includes pre-trained models and containerized applications for Riva.
Okay, I might need a little help with this one. What are containerized applications, and why are they so important for developers?
Think of containerized applications as self-contained packages. They've
Yeah.
got everything you need to run Riva, the models, all the dependencies, the runtime environment, all in one place. It's like a portable speech AI lab you can take anywhere.
So it's like plug and play. Developers can use Riva on different platforms, different clouds, without having to worry about, compatibility issues.
You got it. Containerization makes it so much easier to deploy and scale speech AI applications. Developers can spend less time on the tech setup and more time building innovative solutions.
That makes a lot of sense. NVIDIA is really trying to make it easy for developers to work with speech AI.
They are. And they go even further by offering in-depth training and support. They've got webinars, workshops, and a huge developer community forum. Developers can connect with each other, ask questions, share what they know.
The way tech development works these days is amazing. That kind of support and collaboration is incredible. So to recap, we've got the Riva Developer Starter Kit, access to NGC with all those pre-trained models and containerized applications, and a really supportive community. It sounds like NVIDIA is building a whole ecosystem around this technology.
Great summary, yeah. They're not just providing tools, they're building a community. And speaking of building, let's dig a little deeper into how Riva actually works. At its core, it's built on deep learning, which is a type of AI. It's all about training artificial neural networks to learn from massive amounts of data.
Okay, I hear deep learning everywhere, but I'm not sure I totally get it. Can you break it down for me?
Sure. You know how the human brain has billions of interconnected neurons? Well, an artificial neural network is kind of like a simplified version of that. It's made up of layers of interconnected nodes, and they process information. And just like our brains learn from experience, these networks learn from data.
So instead of programming specific rules, you're basically like teaching the network to recognize patterns and make decisions based on all the data it's seen.
Exactly. You feed the network tons of data, and it starts to figure out patterns and relationships in that data. For speech recognition, for example, you might give it thousands of hours of recorded speech along with the text transcripts.
So the network, over time, gets really good at recognizing speech patterns and turning them into text.
That's it. It's a process of constantly learning and getting better. Now, where NVIDIA Riva really shines is in using GPUs, graphics processing units. They were originally made for graphics, but they're also perfect for deep learning.
So using GPUs lets Riva process all that speech data much faster than regular CPUs.
Exactly. And that's key for real-time performance, which is what you need for a lot of these speech AI applications, like those natural-sounding conversations we talked about. But speed is only part of the story. What really sets Riva apart is its flexibility and how you can customize it. Developers can fine-tune the models to fit exactly what they're doing.
You mentioned this before, but it's a really important point. This customization seems like a huge deal. It solves one of the big problems with older speech recognition systems. They couldn't handle specialized vocabularies or different accents very well.
You're right, like a hospital could train Riva on all their medical terms to make sure doctor-patient conversations are transcribed perfectly. Or a company could train it on their own product names and industry jargon.
So it's like giving the AI its own specialized education, right?
That's a great way to put it. And it goes beyond just vocabulary. Riva can be fine-tuned to handle all sorts of accents, background noise, and even different speaking styles.
It's incredible how much more accessible technology becomes when you can customize it like that.
Absolutely. Now, switching gears from recognizing speech to generating it, Riva's TTS engine uses something called neural voice cloning.
Neural voice cloning sounds super high-tech. How does that work?
It's about training a deep neural network to sound just like a real human speaker. By analyzing tons of audio samples of a person's voice, Riva can learn to synthesize speech that's incredibly close to their natural voice. It's like making a digital copy of their voice.
So you could literally create a synthetic voice that sounds exactly like someone. The possibilities are endless.
They are. Personalized audiobooks narrated by your favorite author, museum exhibits guided by the voice of a historical figure.
That's amazing. But what if you don't have thousands of audio samples of a specific person? Can Riva still generate realistic-sounding voices?
Definitely. Riva comes with a library of pre-trained synthetic voices that are ready to go. They're surprisingly versatile, and developers can tweak them to change the pitch, speed, even the emotional tone. Like, you could make a virtual assistant with a warm, friendly voice, or a newsreader with a more serious tone.
It's getting harder and harder to tell the difference between human and machine voices.
It's a really exciting time to be seeing all this progress. But like with any powerful technology, we have to be careful to use it responsibly.
That's a good point. As we build these super advanced speech AI systems, we have to do it ethically, thinking about how they might impact society.
Absolutely. The future of speech AI has both amazing opportunities and some serious challenges. We're just starting to figure out what it can really do.
And I can't wait to see where it goes. But before we go too far, we've got one more piece to look at. We've talked about the tools NVIDIA gives to developers, the whole deep learning side of things, and what speech AI could do. But what about what's already happening? How is Riva being used in the real world right now?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive. Let's shift gears and take a look at some concrete examples of how Riva is being used across industries to solve real problems and create new solutions.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. All right, so we've talked about the potential of speech AI, the tech behind it, and the resources NVIDIA is putting out there. Now let's see it in action. Real-world examples. Where's Riva actually being used right now?
One area where it's making a big difference is customer service. Companies are using Riva to supercharge their call centers, making those interactions way more efficient, more personalized.
I can see how that'd be huge for any business that deals with tons of calls. But what does that actually look like?
Okay, imagine you call a company, right? And instead of getting stuck in those awful phone menus, you're greeted by a virtual agent. But it sounds totally human.
Okay, yeah.
And this agent, it can understand what you need, answer your questions, even walk you through complicated stuff, all without putting you on hold.
That would be amazing. No more elevator music, and your call is important to us.
Exactly. And because Riva is so customizable, companies can tweak that virtual agent's voice, the language it uses, to match their brand, their customers. They can even have agents that speak multiple languages so they can talk to people all over the world.
Wow. It's like giving every customer their own personal assistant.
It is, yeah. And it's not just good for the customer, it helps the companies too. Like Riva can automate all those little tasks, give human agents help in real time so they can handle more calls with less people, less cost.
Makes sense. So win-win for everybody. But it's not just call centers, right? What other industries are jumping on this?
The auto industry is another big one. They're using Riva to make those in-car voice assistants way smarter, more intuitive.
Yeah, voice control in the car makes so much sense, especially when you need to keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. What makes Riva different in that space?
Well, with Riva, those voice assistants can actually understand normal, natural speech. And they answer back like a person would, like you've got a co-pilot riding with you.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Plus, you can use your voice to control stuff in the car. Navigation, music, temperature, all that.
It's like having a personal assistant who's also a driving expert.
Yeah.
But it can't just be about convenience, right? Safety has to be a top priority.
Oh, absolutely. And Riva's perfect for that. It works in real time, so you get those answers instantly, which is crucial when you're driving. And you can link it up with those advanced safety systems in the car, so the voice assistant can warn you about hazards, help you navigate safely.
Makes sense. It seems like speech AI is going to be a big deal for self-driving cars too, right? As cars get smarter, more connected, you've got to be able to talk to them like a person.
Totally agree. And as we get closer to that world of self-driving cars, speech AI will be crucial for making sure the passenger experience is smooth, enjoyable.
It's really incredible to see how fast all this is happening and how it's already changing things. But before we wrap things up, I wanted to go back to something you said before about using this tech responsibly. As speech AI gets bigger, what are some of the things we really need to be thinking about?
Well, data privacy is a huge one. These speech AI systems need massive amounts of data to learn and get better, right? So we got to make sure that data is collected ethically, that people's privacy is protected. And we have to think about bias too.
That's a good point. If those systems are trained on biased data, it's going to amplify those biases, maybe even create new ones. What can we do about that?
First, we got to acknowledge that bias can happen and make sure the data we use to train these systems is diverse, represents everyone. And we need good ways to test these systems to spot and fix bias throughout the whole development process.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but about how we choose to build and use it. Speech AI should benefit everyone, not just a small group.
Exactly. The future of speech AI, it's really up to us. And we need to make sure it's a future where everyone has a voice.
That's a great note to end on. We've explored the potential, the challenges, the responsibility that comes with this tech. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure. And keep in mind, this is just the beginning. The future of speech AI is wide open. It's up to all of us to make it something we can all be proud of.
That's a great thought for our listeners to take away. As we keep pushing the limits of speech AI, let's do it with excitement, but also with a sense of responsibility. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.